Breaking news.
Oh shoot, breaking news. We're back. We're back in the house. Hello. What's up, everybody? Where are we here? Are we living in Oblivion? I don't know.
Nice work. You worked in the title a little too early.
Yeah, it's a little too early, right?
A little too early for that. We want to hit an intro first. But you are correct, Stephen. We are back here for another exciting, thrilling, cinematic episode of Cinema Discovery Project. And Stephen is going to go through, I guess, a little bit of changes that we're going to be having here on the podcast.
We're done doing the podcast. We're not doing the podcast anymore. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the dedicated fans.
We're switching from talking about movies to talking about our favorite...
Bait and tackle. Our favorite fishing spots.
Favorite fishing spots? Favorite time of the day to go fishing?
Yeah. Sorry, no. If you got excited right there when we said that, then sorry. No, that's not what we're doing. First of all, I'm Stephen Billings. This is Andrew Cabral, as usual. Now, so... with some, things going on in our lives and some other ideas that we have. Me personally, this came from me, and I discussed it with Andrew, and he was down for this change. But we've decided, on figuring out the best streamlined version of this podcast, we decided that we're going to, from now on, be doing what we call spotlights. We're going to be doing spotlights every episode now. And the way we see it is, the idea for this podcast, Cinema Discovery Project, was about discovering, more cinema, and I think instead of maybe, being very broad and jumping around to different type of subject matters, it might be easier and maybe even more interesting for people to discover new films, be trying to look for films maybe you never heard of. We'll still cover stuff that maybe you have, but, finding out more about film through the movies themselves instead of just kind of the reverse, which is being more broad and overviewy, and we're going to try to go down that path and see how that works for us for the foreseeable future.
It's not a complete abandonment of the old model. If anything, it's an inversion of the old model, where we wanted to go initially, for the last, how long have we done this?
It's almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah, almost 2 years now. We've been going kind of like macro versus micro, in a sense, like we've been going like broad subject, and then we'll go in, and then we'll swoop in and go, more detailed and more focused. And now we're kind of going to go start and focus in, and then broaden out based on that focus. So it's kind of like starting with a tree trunk and then building off of that, versus starting with the leaves and then getting to the tree trunk. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's going to be... It's
probably the better way to go.
Yeah, and in a way, we'll still be able to cover what we want to cover in terms of topics, in terms of going over certain, cinematic discoverable things.
Yeah, for instance, if we do, we go and we talk about an Agnes Varda film in the future, we can't talk about Agnes Varda without talking about more French New Wave. We can't,
right.
We want to talk about, Good, the Bad, and Ugly. We're gonna have to now talk about spaghetti westerns a little bit.
And then we'll talk about spaghetti westerns as kind of a backdrop to giving that movie context of where it fits in all of these things. You know what I mean? And even like you said with Agnes Varda, you talk about, let's say we talk about Vagabond. We'll talk about Agnes Varda and her career, and where she fit in the French New Wave, and then we'll talk about Vagabond. You know what I mean? So it kind of all works all hand in hand, connected in a better, more fluent way than it was going the other way, I guess. Yeah, the other way felt more like a I would say a film course. And you know what I mean, like a general studies film course.
I think also for us on a personal level, it helps us be able to zero in better on something and be able to give you a better product, because we aren't professors. We find that we know a good amount about cinema, but we don't know everything. So we don't want this to become homework for us. So we still want to give you a good product. So we feel more confident in that if we can maybe just take it a movie at a time, and from there learn through them movies more about film. I think that though there are other podcasts that do things like this where they talk about one movie at a time, I think that for us, the uniqueness of our choices of movie, I think could set us apart.
Yeah, and what kind of organically always happens when we talk about movies is we always branch out into other directions.
Yeah.
Like that happens when we're not doing a podcast. Yeah. It just organically works its way in. And so it'll probably just be more kind of conversational than it would be educational, like we're telling you or educating you about something, versus more like Steven and I having our normal conversations that we always do, which we should probably record because they would have made for great episodic, podcasts.
It always is like that when you're not, which kind of is funny because that kind of reflects the movie we're going to talk about today. Is sometimes
really
when the camera, you're not recording, the best stuff comes out. But the along with that now that we're streamlining that and doing that change, we're also going to add other things. I'm planning on adding more to these spotlights, which we probably won't call them spotlights anymore. We'll just call them Cinema Discovery Project episode this movie. So
we could call them Cinematic Voyage part. I don't know.
Nah, I'm not going to do that.
Making up names.
Too long.
Shut down.
Yeah. but I'm gonna add some video, audio clips and stuff like that for certain scenes that I feel like are worth hearing. And probably at the beginning, maybe the trailer or something like that. But we're also, and this is something I've somewhat discussed with Andrew, is that we're thinking about, because I used to do a show called the Film Club Movie Show, and it was on a channel called Film Club Central, which is still got a channel there. We don't do much on there anymore, but we do have a subscriber base that we would like to make stuff for. So we're thinking about starting to put our stuff, because I used to do audio video stuff on a Cinema Discovery Project YouTube page, and then I kind of stopped doing that. I got lazy. But I want to bring that over to the Film Club Central page, and we'll eventually be doing video with this too. Whether you want to see us while we talk about this stuff, who knows? But it'll be an option. And then with that, I kind of talked with Andrew about starting another show where it's very much like a loosely, just film lovers talking about whatever they want to talk about movie-wise or maybe even pop culture-wise. That'll be called Movie Lovers Anonymous. So that's out there. We're working on that. That's probably going to happen soon. But so tell us if you like them changes. We hope you do because we're going to do it. But what we're also going to do is kind of go back and forth. I'm going to kind of suggest a movie, which this was my suggestion. And the movie we're talking about is Living in Oblivion, which was from 1995. And it's directed by Tom DeCillo. And this was my suggestion. And at the end of the episode, Andrew was supposed to have a movie prepared to tell me. Did you not remember me telling you that?
Well, you see, Stephen, you did say that.
And you forgot.
And then I completely forgot about it. And keep in mind, he told me this less than 24 hours ago.
Oh, Jesus, it's my fault. He needed a whole week to think of one movie.
These are important situations. Now, you don't mess around when it comes to movie choices.
Okay, well, okay? I'm going to give you this episode to think about it. Unless you...
I'm just going to come up with anything.
Yeah, just keep... I can't wait. But, so that's the idea is we're going to try to pitch each other a movie. And, hopefully, it's stuff that the other person hasn't seen, and it makes it more interesting. But with that out there, let's go ahead and let's dive into 1995's Living in Oblivion.
Lock it up. Okay, here we go. And roll sound.
B.
Nick Rev is making a movie.
Action.
He's wonderful, isn't he?
It's something most of us only dream of doing.
How'd you get into cinematography?
No, I'm directing this movie.
How'd you get into directing?
But for Nick...
Hey, Bob! Hey, Bob!
Rolling.
The dream...
Cut! Do I have to do everything myself here?
...is becoming a nightmare.
What is your name, anyway?
Because he's fallen in love with his leading lady.
Don't you dare tell me that felt fake.
Who's been waking up with his star.
You and I slept together last night.
It's a one-time
Deal. You know it, I know it.
Who's dating the producer.
Because you're not afraid of my power.
Oh, God. I love your power.
Who's cheating on the cameraman.
Give me a hug.
Nick, I need to talk to you for a minute.
What?
It's pretty heavy.
Which is disturbing the dwarf
Hi. Toto, is it?
Tito.
and confusing the crew. Which is not helping Nick
Is everybody hurt? Is anybody okay? Corey, are you all right?
to have a nice day.
Which is a great title.
Yes, it's
a great title.
It is. It stars Steve Buscemi, which I love. Steve Buscemi. He a lot of times doesn't lead movies, I would say, necessarily. A lot of times he's like a supporting character. He pops in somewhere. He was a lead, of course, in what's the show he did?
Boardwalk
Empire. He was got that show was very popular. But he's popped into a lot of things. I love him. Then you also got Catherine Keener, who also very good actress. She might be most recently known for being in Get Out. She was the mom that was putting him in these dream states.
I never looked at a cup of tea the same way.
Yeah. It freaks me out now.
She was also in. I mean, she's been around.
Oh, she's been around for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is that 95 with this time frame we're talking about, it's like a lot of these actors that we know now, like Steve Buscemi and Catherine Keener, were kind of like making their way in their careers, like in the
they were
film,
starting to
world.
make their way. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is I mean, I don't mean to cut off Steven, but just like contextually, it's an indie film from the 90s. The movie was only made for like $500,000, so super cheap by 90s standards and today's standards. And yeah, Catherine Keener, she was also in Being John Malkovich, as well as The 40-Year-Old Virgin. I've always been a big fan of hers. She's a great actress.
You also have Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah, Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah. Which he kind of has been in a ton of stuff. Like he's like
he's been in a lot. Like
he's like the Patrick Dempsey. He's like of
the 90s.
Yeah, I guess he's still working today. I mean,
oh yeah, he still works today. He was in My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yeah.
He was in Young Guns. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. Just looking at his IMDb now, it's a mix of a lot of
TV, a lot of
similar to Steve Buscemi, a lot of TV and movie stuff. You know what I mean? Over the last, I would say, decade or so, those lines have blurred in terms of like, who is in what realm.
Yeah.
Like people would go wherever they can find work. He was in About Schmidt. He was in a bunch of movies, and he, I don't know, he's known for playing like a bit part, I would say like a romantic co-lead.
Yeah, like I said, Patrick Dempsey.
Some of his stuff.
He's kind of got that. He usually plays serious roles, but actually, apparently, he very seldomly would play a comedy role, and he's usually really good. Apparently, and he was really good in this as the DP, the director.
I remember
of photography.
he was on two or three seasons of Shameless.
Yes,
the show,
yes.
the Showtime show.
He was a love interest for.
Yeah, he was one of, Emmy Rossum's many different boyfriends in that show. That was kind of one of the running things. She would always have like a different romantic interest, like in every season, kind of. And he was one of them, and it was actually one of the better, more explored, deep relationships that she had on that show, which was really good. But yeah, so he's in this in a much younger form, and we have a small appearance by, and this is it's not a joke or anything.
You just did that. That was not cool, man.
Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage is in the movie.
Toto.
I didn't mean that by his stature. If anything, he and I are actually relatively the same height. So
really,
I'm not one to talk.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage is 4'4", and I'm like 4'11".
Wow.
So Steve. So
I haven't met Andrew in
close.
person, so I didn't know this.
No. Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure. My whole family's kind of short.
Gotcha.
Like my mother's 4'11". My dad's like 5'5".
Uh-huh.
My brother's probably like 5'6". My uncle's like probably like the tallest at like 5'8", 5'9".
Gotcha.
But my cousins are tall though. So I don't know
what happened.
I don't know what happened.
But yeah, Peter Dinklage has a as you said small part in the movie, which is not a joke. And let me go back down it again. Steve Buscemi plays the director. Nick Reeve, Catherine Keener plays Nicole Springer, who's the lead actress. And I said Dermot Mulroney is the Wolf, who's the DP. And then you have Peter Dinklage, who plays like a supporting little small part in the one of the scenes in the movie. Yeah. Then you have Kevin Corrigan plays the Cameron assistant.
Yeah, people don't know who Kevin Corrigan is. Maybe people don't know, but I know him from being on Grounded for Life. That sitcom from like the late 90s, early 2000s. But he's been in a bunch of stuff since. Like he keeps popping up in like Scorsese stuff. Yeah. Like he was in like The Departed. And was he in The Irishman for like a second?
He was. Yeah, I remember that.
He was. Yeah, he's another person who does both TV and movies. He was also in like remember he was in he was in Pineapple Express.
Yeah, he was one of the bad guys. One of the hitmen.
Yeah, he was in True Romance. He was also in Superbad. Yeah. Remember when the kids go to that party and it's
he was the crazy dude that beat the shit out of that guy that
Yeah, so he's been in a lot of things, and he's in this movie as well. And he's isn't he like the focus puller or the?
He's the camera. He's like the focus puller. You could also call him the assistant camera, person. But yeah, he's the focus puller basically.
I mean, we should know this. We did a whole episode about different parts of
different jobs.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. But basically, it's his job to basically sit right next to the camera and make sure it stays focused as the different shots are happening.
Which to me sounds like the toughest job.
To be honest, it must be the toughest job because he's not looking through
what they do
a viewfinder
usually,
or anything.
What they do usually is they set the camera up in the spot it's supposed to start, and you mark on the focus puller where you're at, where you're focused at, and then you move to the spot you're going to be at, and then you mark a spot so that you know exactly where you're supposed to turn the knob to put yourself in focus. That's how it's supposed to be done, I think. But I don't typically work in manual camera stuff anyway, or at this moment, because I don't have that good of a camera. But
I mean that's also kind of one of the things about this film that I guess slightly dates it a little bit is the technology they're using to make the movie within the movie is a little out of date.
Well, sure, but I don't know that the movie would be nearly as interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's true as well. If anything, it's both a time capsule as well as like contemporary, because a lot of this, I mean, we'll get basically the general plot of this movie is that it takes place all in one night. It's one of those kind of one night, like one location type movies, and you're just seeing them try to make this movie, or at least shoot a specific scene of this movie, and it goes through all of the very many complications that ensue.
Yeah, I mean, it
has a few little interesting ways in which it goes about showing this to us.
Yeah, the movie is kind of set up in 3 parts. It's 3 different scenes of the movie, and as you say, it does take place. It kind of takes place in one night, but it maybe to a person that because it's coming from different perspectives. Kind of. I guess I don't want to reveal anything until as we go through the movie, but.
Right. I mean, we are, of course, we always spoil the heck out of the movies. So definitely, if you haven't seen the movie yet, see it. If you don't care,
if this will give you the reason to go see the movie, then listen to us and then go watch the movie. But it is a very good script. I think it did win best script at Sundance, if I'm not mistaken. Let
me look.
The last actor I do want to bring up, who plays the asshole actor Chad Palomino, is played by James LaGroix, who for me he was in the movie what's the heist movie with Patrick Swayze, Point Break. He was in the original Point Break.
You can just say Point Break. We don't acknowledge
the remake didn't happen. But he was part of the gang. He was part of the presidents that was with Patrick Swayze that stole, that's what I remember him from. Now, he's been in a bunch of other stuff, but...
Yeah, he was in Drugstore Cowboy.
Yeah.
The Gus Van Sant film from '89 starring Matt Dillon. as well as Kelly Lynch. That's a great film.
He was in a remake of Mildred Pierce. I didn't even know they had a remake of it.
Yeah, that was an HBO miniseries that they did with Kate Winslet a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Kate Winslet, Guy Pearce, Evan Rachel Wood. And I want to say, if memory serves, I think Todd Haynes was either a producer or director behind it. Yeah, he was no, he directed
Just looking
the whole
at the
series.
poster, it does look like a Todd Haynes movie, because after seeing
Yeah.
Carol, he did Carol, right? Yeah,
Yes.
it looks like the poster for Carol in a way.
It does look like
kind
the poster
of looks
for Carol.
has an elegance to it that has. Yeah, I love. He's good. He's really great at playing this, self-absorbed, kind of prototypical what you think actors are like.
Did you happen to read the IMDb trivia about that?
Yeah, I was gonna wait till we got into it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going
I
to
didn't
it.
wanna I jumped the
Yeah,
gun.
yeah. I was going to wait till we got into the where he's introduced. But yeah, so I guess with that said, we went through the cast. Tom DeCillo hasn't done much that I'm familiar with.
Same here. Yeah.
He very much is a very indie director. And his first movie was with, I guess we can bring it up here. His first movie was with Brad Pitt, which is where you were going.
Okay.
Yeah. And originally Brad Pitt was going to play this asshole actor. So I think that's what you were going to say, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say like he may or may not have based that character on Brad Pitt.
He said,
because Brad Pitt was supposed to play that character, but he didn't end up doing it.
yeah, the movie
And
he did.
in the first movie was Johnny
Yeah.
Slade.
He did talk about that in the behind the scenes of Living in Oblivion, and he
Okay.
said that it was not based on him. He's like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it was.
I mean,
was just,
they gave him the same haircut, the same blonde haircut and everything.
yeah.
But they made him an asshole. I have no idea if Brad Pitt's an asshole.
Well, it doesn't.
No
I mean,
idea.
from what he's saying, he's like, no, I mean, it was not based on him. It wasn't. He was gonna play him. I mean, it wasn't. It was just the. He said that the way that the guy that ended up playing him was the way he decided to play him. It was he didn't even talk to him about how to play him. But yeah, Johnny Suede was the first movie Tom did, and apparently it didn't get received well. He said he took it to Sundance and nobody, like, it was deflated and the movie just evaporated basically. And then he spent the next 4 years trying to get money to make another movie. And then it ended up being Living in Oblivion, which when he did it, he only shot the first 30 minutes first. That black and white for the first 30 minutes, that first scene was all that they had shot at first, and then he was talked into doing the rest. Yeah.
I'll say this: I guess you could say, first act of this film hooked me in immediately, because I was like, oh, okay, we're doing something interesting here. So the first, I could say, yeah, the first third of the film, the first act of this film, first part, is all in black and white.
Yeah.
And you know me, I see black and white.
Oh, get you.
And I love it. Give me more black and white cinema, please.
Yeah, and it
I
was
need it.
shot in 16 millimeter. That's what he said.
Nice and grainy.
And nice and grainy. So we open up on, and it's cool how they do this. The transitions between the acts are you walking through doors, like they're walking. It's like you're walking into somebody's Oblivion, which that's kind of what he says. Is this movie's about how when you're making a movie, it's like nothing else matters. You're in Oblivion. That's what it is. That's the only thing that's going on.
I mean, you kind of have to be. I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but like movie making in general, I mean, we'll probably get into a little bit while we're talking about the movie. It's tough.
It's
real
insane.
tough.
It's an insane thing to have to.
You got to be locked in.
Yeah, and you got to hope that everybody else will be locked in too. That's
Yeah.
the thing, is you can try to do your best to be, to be your best, but you got to depend on tons of other people to be their best. And they could be set off by something that has nothing to do with the movie at all.
Yeah, it's like links in a chain. If one link in the chain breaks or something wrong with it, the whole thing can fall apart on you.
And like you said, because of the time period, the technology wasn't as great. And when you're in an indie film making a movie on almost nothing, things break down. You don't have a replacement. You can't.
Oh yeah.
Like
they show that in this film.
Yeah,
too.
it
It's kinda
shows you
great.
almost every bad scenario you can think of that would happen when you're trying to make a movie. You're trying to just shoot one scene, and you can't get it done because of something. But we'll get into it here. So when the scene opens, you're walking through a door, and now you're in the middle of like this kind of side street, and you see this is the catering, and I do air quotes catering. You have this table and it has like half-eaten donut on it, so Oreos, and then you see this girl and she's like doing some stuff, and the guy comes up to her, is like, smells the milk and says, "Is the milk bad?" It's like, I don't know, let me smell it. And she's like, I don't know. Should I go get more milk? Is it bad? Like she's like, why are you asking me this? If it's bad, go get more milk. But he doesn't want to go down the street and get the milk. Right. So he's just like, I guess it's not that bad.
Yeah, and we also our lead actress Catherine Keener's getting picked up to be brought to set, right?
Well, it's just her. She gets picked up by this random. I guess he's just he's getting paid to transport the actors. I guess.
I think it's the PA, like the production assistant, because that's type of PA stuff. Like,
the thing is you don't ever see him in any other part of the movie other than picking up people.
You see him. I think you see him in the third act.
Does he come in the third act somewhere?
Yeah, I thought that was him.
I don't know. But
yeah, it was because she's like, because he remarks like, oh yeah, it's the you're doing this scene today, and she's like, oh, did you read the script? He's like, oh no, I saw the call sheet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So she's getting picked up, as well as her the person she's doing a scene with is getting picked up as well.
Yeah, the one playing the mother, and
the one playing the mother in the scene.
And so one of the main things that gets brought up throughout the whole movie is that Catherine Keener's character Nicole had done a movie with Richard Gere, where she was in a shower scene, and it gets brought up all the time, and it's kind of playing into that thing of like, one thing can break an actor and get them into something else, and it can be what they're known for, but it's hard as an actor to break out of stuff like that, right. They want to be more than that, but people only see them as that thing. So she's trying, she has an actual connection to this character. She has issues with her mother in real life, and so this scene today is like really important to her to get right. So she's like,
yeah, she's gonna tap into her own personal life for this scene, and so they go to set together, and they're gonna shoot this very emotional scene together where she's playing like kind of where someone who was abused by her father, like physically beat up, and the mother is gonna be like in denial about it, and it's gonna be a really like emotional scene. And complications just keep happening.
Yeah, so
they keep having to cut.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can go through the events here. I got them all written down here. So they get
See, I don't write down anything. Steven's the man prepared.
Yeah, I'm a little prepared for this one. So when they get everything set up, you're as a director, you're building up your actors. You're talking to your actors and say, hey, don't think, just do it. So what happens is, and this is what they kind of do throughout the movie. They flip flop, but when he says action and we see through, I guess, what the camera sees, it turns to color. And the director, Tom DeCillo, said that the reason he did that is because that's how he sees movies when he's directing, is that he sees it as this big, bright thing, like it's paradise. It's the final. So he already sees it in his mind. And so.
And I loved that aspect of it. I was like, is the whole movie going to be like this? Because that's amazing. Yeah. It doesn't end up being all like that. Spoiler. But just to see that and be like, wow, that's really ingenious. Yeah. Like that's a really cool stylistic thing to do. Like the real world's in black and white, and the movie world, which is the fictitious world, is the one that's multi. It's colored. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's all kind of colors and all that kind of stuff. But go on, Steve.
But yeah, so the first take is going, and what's the first bad thing that happens? Well, the mic operator doesn't have the frame line right. His mic sneaks into the frame, so they have to cut. And so they're like, well, we need a frame line, So they fix it again, and they do it again, and now the focus puller doesn't have he didn't have the timing right, and so it goes out of focus, and you're like, oh fuck. And then the production assistant makes a joke like, "You're gonna get it right? You'll never work in this town again." Like shit like that. They threaten each other. It's funny. And then they're about to take their third take, and it's going well, and then suddenly street noise. there's a dude coming down the road,
yeah.
and there's like, because they're, like I said, they're like on like a side street, but cars are not supposed to be coming through because it's like a closed set area. They're supposed to have the two sides closed off, but for some reason a car got down there, and they had to stop the cut, and so then, you know, they're all like yelling at somebody on the, you know, walkie-talkies, like, shut up, you know, or they got this down, you know, is it a closed street?
Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy because like they have like people outside, like they got to check with them. Hey, are there cars coming? Is there an airplane coming? Is there a helicopter? Are people going to be walking by? You know what I mean? Like there's got to be like a chain of command in film production to get things just set up, let alone getting a scene right. And the film does a pretty fantastic job of showing the complications behind.
Well,
all
there's
this.
and
like Steven said,
it shows
like,
you the
takes,
machine like the way it is. I mean, you start out,
and you know and what sucks is that the takes that they're doing are actually good takes. At least, you know what I mean? And they just get screwed up.
Yeah, what it shows is the more you make especially your actors, the more you make them have to redo things over and over again, they start to get exhausted. And they start to lose focus. And you start to see that less passion is being put into what they're doing. So, then after the street noise, then the mic operator, once again, doesn't get his frame and line right. And he's like, well, it's like you keep moving the camera. It's like, that's the shot. You should know this. He's like, what are you talking about? So then they decide that they're going to use, you know, what we would call lavalier mics. You know, they call them radio mics. And so they take a break and they switch to radio mics so that the mics are on the actors and they're hidden behind their hair and you won't be able to see them.
Right. Like underneath their clothes and stuff and all kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure they use those a lot more in like bigger productions now than boom mics.
Yeah.
I feel like boom mics now are used in like smaller productions.
Yeah, it really
just
depends on the scene that you need.
I guess it does depend on the scene, location, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But like I remember, I mean, years ago when I was assisting my buddy making his short film, we had a boom mic operator and stuff.
Yeah.
And we never had any of that boom mic problems, so it worked out.
He
well.
obviously was probably just somebody that wasn't really that experienced and was just there to hold. He didn't think much of it, but
well, yeah, I think he was kind of like an audio tech guy anyway. So he was actually him who had suggested all the equipment and like how to like put all the you know, the SD cards and the digital recorder and all that kind of stuff together. And then I guess he used the boom mic. He knew where to put it. Yeah, and I think that's the most important part when it comes to audio stuff, is to knowing where to put the microphones to capture the best audio. Because like if your audio is screwed up, it's not going to matter how great the acting is.
Yeah, it shows you how much each job matters. You know, you might think it's easy from a distance, but it's not. This movie shows you that everybody has a part to play, and if it isn't playing all right at the same time, then it can mess up everything. That's why filmmaking, I think, is one of the hardest, yet one of the like all around best forms of art. You know, for me personally.
Right. I mean, we love it.
Yeah,
so
we love it. Yeah, we're biased. Yeah. But so they you know, he talks. You know, Steve Buscemi talks to the actors between, you know, trying to get them to settle down, and so then they do another take. And now the light bulb busts on them in the middle of the take, and it's like, you're holy shit! Like, what the fuck happened? So then, in between that time, they're trying to, you know, now the PA is trying to convince Buscemi to change the scene, like to do a cut, which is, you know, I think something that's important to think about in this movie, because I think one of the main themes of this movie is that in indie filmmaking, and this is one of the lines, is that you have to roll with it. You know, in filmmaking, especially at this level, you have to roll with things. And sometimes the thing that you envisioned creatively isn't going to work out. And so she's trying to convince him that, hey, instead of doing this all in one shot, let's cut this up. You know, we got some good...
Yeah, basically, you know, we did half of it's already shot and it's good. We can use one of those takes, and then we'll just do the rest of the scene, and then from that best take, we'll just match them up. Yeah. And I mean, that happens in filmmaking all the time. I mean, I do that, like, people do that on YouTube all the time. I've done that. You know what I mean? We do it all the time. It's just like, it's an easy way to, like, kind of, you know, make things easier on you if you can't get it all in one take. And after a certain amount of takes, you just get so frustrated. You're like, there's got to be an easier way to do this.
Yeah.
So they're gonna match them up. So they're gonna go from a certain line, and then they're gonna go forward from that line and then match them up. But of course, complications ensue.
Yeah. So, after that, Steve Buscemi decides, that's the shot that he's planned on, and that's what he wants to do. So he says that's what we're doing. So they continue to do that, and now they're about to shoot another take, and now the actress that's playing the mother suddenly forgets her line. Her line that she had said many times before, she suddenly just forgets it. And I love that there's a moment where, the focus puller makes a joke and kind of like says the line, she's like, I don't remember this ever happening. She says something like that. And then he's like, I don't ever remember my line ever happening. He says something that kind of mocks it, and it's pretty funny. But, so, now he decides, and Steve Buscemi is now kind of his patience is being pushed. He says, we're going to run the fucking lines. Like, he says it in, like, a really mean way. He's like, we're going to take a break, and we're going to run these fucking lines. We're going to do the scene.
Yeah, basically, like, impromptu practice.
Yeah,
like, impromptu, rehearsal.
Yeah. So, everybody kind of, like, the crew kind of stops, and suddenly, so now it's just the actors sitting beside each other running the scene. And Buscemi, and of course, then this is what we were kind of hinting to earlier. So they start doing it, and she, the actress that playing the mother touches her hair, and it like triggers an emotion within Catherine Keener's character, and it makes her snap into what she was trying to do from the beginning. And they end up doing this scene beautifully, and you see Steve Buscemi, and he's just like this is it, and he turns to the focus pullers like, where's the DP? And he's like, he's not there. He's like, because he was like, we should just shoot this while they're not thinking about it. They don't know we're shooting them. And unfortunately, Wolf, the DP, is throwing up in the bathroom because he'd had that coffee with some milk in it that was bad, and now he's throwing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they run the scene, like Steven said, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it blows all the other takes out of the water. It's emotional. It's just like, it's amazing. And the camera's not going. Camera's not going.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn.
Yeah, it's like, and then you're like, you know what? And then he just like snaps. He's like, look, this is it. This is the last time. This is gonna be it. This is gonna be the one. We're gonna do this. And then he gets everybody together, and they're gonna do it. And then suddenly there's a beeping noise.
Cut! What the fuck is that sound?
Not me. It's a camera.
Fuck it is, it's off. It wasn't even running, dick glass.
What is going on down there? Do I have a lockup? What, nothing? You don't hear a beeping sound? The street's quiet.
What the fuck is it? It's somebody's watch.
It's not mine.
It's not mine. Not mine. Okay, where is it? Sucking motherfucking bastard, where are you? Take a walk, Les. Go get coffee and don't come back, all right? God, I said no food on sick. Where are you? Can somebody help me, please? Huh? Do I have to do everything myself here? Huh, Cora? Why don't you go learn your lines, Cora? Hey, script! How about paying attention a little bit there, okay? Hey, focus puller. I got some good tie stick. You want to go fucking smoke one, or you want to pay attention here? What are you laughing at, Wolf? You fucking pretentious beret-wearing motherfucker. Hey, I saw your reel, man. It sucked. Fuck would hire you anyway. Hey, Bob! Hey, Bob! Can you make a little noise on the fucking dolly? Huh? You creaky motherfucker. Wanda, next time can you wear a shirt that's a little bit more distracting to my actors? What is your name anyway? What do you fucking do around here? Hey, Speedo, you can't find a little fucking beat? Huh? You see what I fucking have to deal with here, Nicole? Maybe do some of that magic on camera? No, wait till fucking Wolf is puking his guts out. Oh, now I'll be good.
And they do not know where it's coming from. They're running around, and this is where Steve Buscemi goes freaking nuts. And
right, he starts tearing up the set.
Oh, he starts tearing up the set. And apparently a lot of this was improv by Steve Buscemi. they like all the reaction shots was all the actual improv parts, and then they went back and shot him the other way, just doing it again. But like it's hilarious. Some of the insults and some of the things, he just insults everybody in the room, and he cannot find out where this beeping sound's coming from. And then suddenly, and this is where it kind of pulls the sheets, pulls the wool back, and it was a dream the whole time. Steve Buscemi is in his bed and he's dreaming. It's now he's in color, he's in his bed and he's like, damn, like, wow, he's having a stress dream.
Right, and the noise he was hearing was his alarm clock.
Yeah. So I think that this first part, this kind of first act here, is about it's obviously about the director's point of view on making a movie like this. It's the director's anxiety. I think, honestly, this is about filmmaking in general, but I think specifically he hones in on director's point of view on the first part. And then we jump into the second part, which continues to be in color, and then you see the star, the Chad Palomino, has just came out of the shower, and apparently him and some girl have just had sex, and if you don't hear the voice, it ends up, and you end up seeing it by the end of the scene, it ends up being Catherine Keener's character. So Catherine Keener has now slept with who the major star is that's going to make his way into the movie. He's apparently done some major movies with some big actors. He talks about it in a scene a little bit later with Steve Buscemi where he's played in a movie with Winona Ryder where he plays a killer, that falls in love with Winona Ryder, and just like bullshit movies that don't actually exist. But so she's kind of reeling over the fact that she just
so that has actually happened many times in movie making in general, where like lead actor or lead actress or actor or actress or whatever end up having some type of romantic dalliance during
for
the
whatever
making of
reason,
the movie. I mean, it happens with director and lead actress, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, that's kind of maybe touching on that a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And also touching upon how it's going to affect the movie making process, which it does later on. And that seems to be a problem in movie making in general. Like, people's personal feelings towards another or personal relationships can impact the movie making process, even if it's not romantically entangled. Like, people can just straight up hate each other.
Oh, yeah.
And not be able to work with one another.
And some can. Some can work past it, and they don't. They look at this as more of a job and they don't get that invested. But yeah, I mean, so you get that scene with her, and she kind of like, it's like, oh my god, what did I do? That's gonna fuck shit up. Even though she makes it clear that this was not, there's no strings attached. This was just for fun,
Right. And you also see that other people on the production have romantic entanglements as well. The the assistant,
she's the production assistant.
You think she's the PA?
Yeah.
I was gonna say AD, but maybe not.
I think she's the
director, but I don't think so.
I think she's the production assistant. She's the one that kind of like makes sure everything's in line.
Right, and then so she has a romantic entanglement with
Wolf.
Is it
Wolf?
with Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf the DP. Yeah,
the DP.
So you kind of get some of that. You see a scene with them, and she's kind of like talking about how she's going to go to a jazz club later to meet with Chad. Which, so you get this idea that Chad's, he's just an asshole that's just going to sleep with one.
Oh yeah.
He's just taking his chance at every woman he can. And then there's a scene when we get to set. Before I get there, before the end of that scene, she accidentally bumps into Wolf and like hurts his eye, and you can tell you can tell that nothing actually happened. That he just wanted his like attention back on himself. He's like, "Oh, you got my." It's like, I think it's so.
Yeah, it really hurts.
Yeah. care about me and not about Chad,
Right.
But
he's looking for some sympathy.
yeah, but then it goes back to the set, and there's a scene that I think is really fun that kind of comes back up again later in the movie, but you see I guess he's a grip, he's one of the guys that helps on the set. He might be one of the grips or something, and the focus puller guy, and they're talking about it. He's talking about a script he's written, and I think that's fun because a lot of these people that are on these crews and are in the film industry want to be more than where they're at. I think that's an interesting aspect to go into, is that even the guy that's the PA, or they want to be the director. They want to be this. They have more ambition than you would think that they have, even though they're just doing maybe something very small within the production. So you see him talking about he has the script, and he's gonna pitch it to Chad, and Chad would be perfect. They're gonna get a big star on this, and gonna get it sold. So I thought that was a fun scene, like showing that kind of like aspect of that these people have their interests too.
Yeah, it shows everybody starts out somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you got to get your foot in the door somewhere. And yeah, he's gonna like pitch it to him, and he's talking about like, oh yeah, it's a great script. He's definitely, I'm gonna make a aggressive pitch. He's definitely gonna go for it. He has a very naive, hopeful optimism. But I guess that's
where you start out at.
That's
literally how everybody is.
Yeah.
Until they get there. So
yeah, and then dreams being crushed and all that. And then kind of stuff.
You hate everybody, and yeah. No, I'm not talking about myself. Okay, so but then now we're getting ready to get into filming. But before that, finally, Nicole shows up, and she's getting ready, and apparently she has bags under her eyes, and apparently Preparation H is good for bags under your eyes. That's what the makeup guy says.
That's what they're dabbing on.
Yeah, dabbing Preparation H under her eyes. But then Steve Buscemi and her have a little bit of a conversation. She tries to pretend that she didn't. She was supposed to show up in the car to get picked up, but she never did. She took a taxi. She was really trying to hide the fact that she was with Chad. So there's a little scene there that kind of goes over that, and that maybe both of them kind of have a thing for each other, somewhat.
Yeah, there's a. I mean, later on, like they have not a past relationship, but they know each other.
They're friends. They know they're definitely friends. That's why part of the reason he puts her in the movie is because he knows her, and believes in her. And just so they're acquaintances, and maybe there's a little bit of a crush there. So this next scene is supposed to be like a romantic scene, with Chad, and so. This really, I would say this section is really about how, about dealing with actors. I mean, it's really more about that process of a director's, job, which is really kind of maybe the most important. It's kind of their main job, honestly, because, I mean, you can get a DP to make your movie look beautiful. But dealing with the actors and getting the performances is really kind of their main job. And this whole section kind of deals with how bad it can go. Like, where the actors who, to me, acting, they think about this whole process differently. A lot of times actors want to be spontaneous. Actors work in a more spontaneous way. They want to be more in the moment, when filmmakers a lot of times are about a process. They need it to be in a certain way. They have a script. Let's stick to that script. Or they have something planned. They have a shot planned. This is the way it goes. And we don't don't have time, especially in an indie movie, to change things on the day.
Right. You also don't have like the crew to change things, the time, the money, any of that stuff. And usually, I mean, it really all depends on the director. It all depends on the actor. It all depends on, the relationship between the two. But I mean, some directors welcome, improvisation, spontaneity, changing things up. Some directors are like, no, like the script is the Bible. You have to abide by it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I mean, for instance, like somebody like Terrence Malick, especially over the recent years,
he has no script.
He doesn't have a script. I mean, he just takes shit and goes out and films people doing stuff.
I'll say this: some of his movies clearly don't have a script, and if they do, he doesn't abide.
He doesn't abide by him. Yeah, he probably has some sort of treatment of sorts. where it's you have a story that he's trying to follow, or certain events that you follow, but the actions that get you through there are all fucking made up.
His movies are all made in the editing room, as all movies are, but his especially.
Yeah.
I would say like maybe the opposite of Malick would be more like. I've heard that Tarantino, his script.
Oh, I'm sure his script is Bible.
His script is Bible.
Yeah.
Like his movies are heavily dialogue driven, so the script probably needs to be abided by pretty heavily.
I think there is he leaves a certain amount of room for some improvisation, but for the most part, he wants you to do it the way it is. And the actors want to do it the way it is because it's usually fucking good.
Right. I mean, and like you were talking about like actors doing so many takes and getting frustrated. One of my favorites of all time is Stanley Kubrick.
Oh yeah,
and he is notorious for doing like over 100 takes.
Yeah.
Like he made that poor boy who played Danny Torrance in The Shining do like 120 something takes in that scene that he has with Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently they did like 120 something takes, and
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
And then David Fincher's another one.
Yeah, Fincher.
There's that famous scene, like not famous scene. There's one of those scenes in Zodiac where Jake Gyllenhaal just like throws a folder on like a car seat, and he made him do it so many times to get it right. You know what I mean? Like he made him do it like over and over again. Like read up on that. I mean, apparently, I think Robert Downey Jr. hated working with him or something. Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that.
Apparently, he's a perfectionist too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, there are some that are perfectionists, some that aren't.
Yeah, it can clash. You can clash with your actors and your directors, and it happens. Like I said, this movie really brings that all out to the forefront and really shows you that. So, one of the first things that happens before the shooting starts is that Chad notices that the DP Wolf has an eye patch now.
An eye patch.
Yeah, which is hilarious. And then suddenly Chad's like, I think my character should have an eye patch.
And it's like,
and they're just like, I don't think that's gonna work. Let me think about that one. And so they they start doing the scene, and they get through it, and it just doesn't work by the end. Like Chad's not hitting his cues properly, and then like the kiss at the end's like not working. Like it doesn't look romantic at all. And so they keep, let's do it again. And so Chad now suddenly like, I don't think I should come around the bed. I think I should jump on the bed, fall on the bed. Like the thing is when you do that, now you have to change the lighting. And then now you also have to change how if the camera stays in the same spot, are you both going to properly be, it's what we call blocking. You have to have the proper blocking where the camera knows where to be to stay in focus. This is why all this stuff has to be, prepared. It's not easy to do it on the moment, and do it right. You could get all, gung ho and do like, handheld style and everything and stay with everything, but then you don't get that steadiness that a lot of filmmakers love,
Buscemi's character wants to use dolly shots constantly.
He wants to always use, dollies, and he wants to use he doesn't want to go handheld. He doesn't want to go guerrilla style. He wants to do this as professionally as possible. So finally, Chad decides, so they try to do the scene the way he likes it, where he jumps on the bed, and so you can't even see half his face is cut off. Her face, she's got turned all the way to the left, and you can't see her face now. So it's not working. And so from there, now, I think at this point...
Well, then he tries to improv where he starts like groping her face and like.
Well, no. What happens next is he actually suggests a good idea, at least a good idea to Steve Buscemi's character. He suggests that because one of her lines is that I've admired you from afar, and so he's like, what if instead of her being up in the front, I'm up in the front, which is, and of course it's going to put the focus on him, though it's not. The scene's more about her. So he's up front, and then she's up in the back, and she comes around to him, and he's like, you know what? That is a good which I think, though it's kind of a funny thing, it also shows you that when you do collaborate with your actors, it doesn't mean that all their ideas are bad.
Right.
So they decide, hey, let's redo the scene, let's reset up the scene to do this. That his idea. So now Chad, of course, has got a big head. He's like, yeah, of course my idea is great, So they're all off and they're all doing their thing. I think a couple of the he hits on another one of the, I think it's the scribe, the girl that has the script. I can't think of her, what the job is. The girl that has the script and can.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
But they're over there and they're at the break area and they're getting coffee and stuff, and they're talking about how hot Chad is and that they're going to go out with him to both of them are going to be going to a jazz club later, and then Catherine Keener makes a joke about him, because she knows he's an asshole, and so during this whole all happening, sudden.
I think I don't want to cut you off, but I think it's called the script supervisor.
The script supervisor. That's it.
I think that's the person to make sure, like, that each scene is, I think, like, to mark.
It's about continuity. It's about certain continuities and
continuity
cue
and
marks
like
and stuff like that. Yeah. So from there, now we're getting ready to shoot again, and suddenly Wolf is realizing he doesn't know where his eye patch is, and then. You look back and Chad now has the eye patch on, and he gets so super pissed off about it because he knows that Chad is going after his lady. He's with that PA. Her name's Wanda, by the way, and so he is pissed off the whole day. And he's just like, that's my goddamn eye patch. I don't want anybody. It's unsanitary for anybody else to wear that. And so but Chad's like really like. I have to have the eye patch. It's meant to be. So he gives him his eye patch back, but then he says he wants somebody to go get him one. So then now they have to.
Like, I'll pay for it.
I'll pay for it. So they have to stop and wait for them to get in my eye patch. Though they're not going to do it. Like, it's not happening. Right. So now they get back into the scene, and now, they're doing it. And as you were saying, he's doing the scene, and he's starting to grope her hair, like in this really weird way. It's like. Distracting, and she like just
it's not even affectionate, it's
annoying. Yeah. And so she she can't stand it anymore. She just pushes him off, and they had to stop the scene. And this is where Chad just blows his top and it's like, I can't work with her, like he's this is where the director has, he's feeling the need to make sure the actor doesn't run off the set. He needs to get this done. And so he takes Chad to the side, and they have this conversation. And unfortunately for him, Catherine Keener decides to listen to the audio from that scene, and he overhears their conversation through the mic when she's done listening to the playback. And Steve Buscemi, to appease Chad, says that Catherine Keener's character isn't the greatest actor. So she overhears him, kind of badmouth her. This is, of course, upsets her, and when they do the scene again on the next take, she just is like, "Hey, what? I want to be loose like Chad is. Let me be spontaneous. Let's just improv this a little bit more and see how it goes." So then she basically just tells off Chad in the middle of the scene that he's this asshole, and
What's interesting is that Buscemi he's like Chad's like do I continue with this scene? Buscemi's like he's just behind. He's just like, yeah, keep going. And he makes the motion with his hands, and his eye, the Buscemi eyes. He goes, yeah, keep going. Yeah. And then the scene, of course, falls apart because Catherine Keener just says like, yeah, I heard what you just said, and like,
well, yeah, she just blatantly says, the only reason this isn't working is because we slept together,
Yeah.
And then it turns into him almost attacking her, and then Buscemi has to, him and Buscemi get into it first, and then he punches Buscemi in the stomach, and Buscemi falls to the ground, and then Catherine Keener jumps on him and goes crazy on him, and then the DP Wolf comes up and is trying to do something, then he gets knocked out. You thought maybe he was going to be able to do something, and nope, Chad just knocks him out cold, and then finally Buscemi gets back up and then just chokes him out. And it's hilarious because then now Chad has this like cartoonish look on his face. Like the whole time he's been choked out and he's passed out. He's just like, tongue out, And so they just get rid of him. They just put him in a taxi, and as he's getting put in a taxi, the grip guy gives him his script and is like, hey, this script, you would be perfect for it. I'm telling you, he gives it to him and he says, see you, and that's it. He leaves, and I think as the scene is ending,
Steve Buscemi's character, like he talks with Catherine Keener's character, and and he says he basically confesses his true feelings to her, and he's like, "Why do you think I wrote this script like this? Because it's really about you." And then they share this, I guess you could say, romantic kiss, and then scene change.
She snaps out.
Now
we find out that this whole scene, this whole act was from Catherine Keener's. She was having a dream. And one thing I meant to bring up during the Buscemi and Chad's the fight with Chad, I loved the line where he's like, "Only reason I'm doing this movie is because I heard you were tight with Quentin Tarantino."
Yeah, I got that reference.
I was like, hilarious.
And it's crazy coincidence because Steve Buscemi was in Reservoir Dogs, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Yeah. So technically, Steve Buscemi is tight with Tarantino.
Yeah. So that, like you said, Keener wakes up in bed. It kind of sets us back to the beginning of that whole scene where she wakes up after having sex with Chad. So but he's not there. Well, this is after he's left.
See, I thought. Do you?
I think it
still happened.
I think it still happened.
I don't know. I thought that was.
Or maybe it didn't happen.
I thought that was part of the dream too.
Maybe it is. But she wakes up there and
she wakes up wherever
she wakes
she
up
is,
the same
whatever
way
hotel room.
In that the way was. I mean, I guess she sleeps naked like that. I guess.
I mean, people do.
But she was about to jump in the shower, so that that's probably the reason. So, but she was naked there, and she jumps in the shower, and that's how it transitions now to the. This would be the final act.
The third.
To me, this and what's interesting about this is this last scene is them shooting a dream scene. What's cool about it is the first two acts were actual dreams. That's what's interesting, isn't it?
And we forgot to say the second act is in color.
Yeah.
But when they shoot the scenes, they're in black and white.
Yeah. So
it's a reversal of the
I'm not really
act.
sure what the meaning of that is.
I mean, you could definitely just say what we said about the first part and, turn it around. The real world is multi, colorful and real and, so many different facets to it, while the movie world is the fake world, therefore it's in much simpler terms, black and white, light and dark, things like that. I guess you could say that. And then this third act,
it's just all in color.
It's just all in color. So I'm under the assumption that the third act of this movie is the quote reality of where these people live in.
Yeah.
Like this is their real world.
Yeah.
This is the movie. This is really the movie being shot finally. While the first two parts were like dream parts. And the reason I say that is just because they don't ever reference what happens in the first two parts.
No, they don't necessarily reference that stuff actually happened because Chad's still in the movie in the third part.
Yeah, but he's not in the third part. They just mentioned that he's off sick, so he can't be on set today. So we're gonna shoot the scenes without him, the scenes that he's not in.
Yeah. So in this dream sequence, this is where we're introduced to Peter Dinklage, and so the focus puller he just he has to go take a piss or something, and he jumps into and there he is, Peter Dinklage, trying to use the bathroom. Though he can't see himself he's trying to use the mirror and there's no step stool, which he tells Steve Buscemi later, make sure you have one in the bathroom. And
I'll be honest, yeah.
So, he Peter Dinklage gives him a mouthful and says, knock, and you know how Peter Dinklage is so good at being angry. I love his angry scenes in anything he does. But so he walks off. And then we get Steve Buscemi talking with Wolf about the shot. And, once again, as we said earlier, Buscemi, Nick, I'll call him by his character name, Nick wants to do this once again on, a dolly. He wants to keep it all on there. But now finally Wolf is like, hey, I think handheld would work better for this, and he keeps bringing it up, and he's also upset because just before they've done this, the Wanda, who he's had this relationship with, has broken up with him, and they do it in a very professional way. He's saying he's okay and they can still be friends, but ultimately he's upset, and so he's just getting very petty and so now Steve Buscemi and him have to have a kind of an aside, and he tells him, he's going through personal problems and stuff. And this is where that line comes in I was talking about, where he says, I've learned through this whole experience that, you just have to roll with stuff. Like, that's how it is with filmmaking. You can't, everything's not going to be the way you expect it. You just got to roll with things sometimes. And I think that is kind of the moment of the movie for me that really encapsulates the movie. Is just, though, you have to roll with it line. So now this gets into an interesting thing, and I never thought about it until they get into it with this scene, but how apparently during this time period, dwarves were used in dream sequences a lot. And it's nothing I really thought about until it was brought up in this movie, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like I have seen that in dream sequences before. I think there's one in a Adam Sandler movie. I think it was Billy Madison, maybe, that has like a dwarf in a scene where he's having like a daydream.
When he goes to his happy place.
Yeah, when he goes to his happy place, and it's like, why is that there? Why is there?
Oh, it's in Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore. There it is.
Yeah,
and
because to center himself, he has to go to his happy place in order to be a better golfer.
Yeah. So apparently that was a thing, and so also in this movie that he's making, you got Catherine Keener, who's in a wedding dress, who's having like an anxiety dream, and this dwarf comes in with an apple in her hand and circles her and says, and she keeps saying, I'm so hungry, and it's like, what the fuck, but it's a dream sequence. They're supposed to be weird, and so you apparently need to have a dwarf in it. So we get into more of that later, but so in all, Nick wants the dwarf to do is to circle her and then give a laugh, and he's not, and his name's Tito, but Catherine Keener keeps calling him Toto.
They keep calling him Toto.
Well, she does, not anybody else, but she keeps calling him Toto.
And the whole laughing thing is Buscemi's character Nick is not giving him any direction. Like, how do you want him to laugh? Like, is it supposed to be maniacal? Is it supposed to be happy?
Well, he keeps giving him direction, but he just doesn't. I think because he just knows that this whole idea of him doing this character is bullshit. He just isn't listening at all. He feels kind of.
He's kind of a prop.
Well,
if you notice, like, she doesn't even, like, she's not even seeing him in the scene itself.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing where, like, it to her, the apple is just floating there, but he's also in the scene as well. But her character within that scene doesn't know that he's there, like, doesn't see him. And I'm like, then why is he just being used to hold an apple and go around her? I mean, it's like you said, like, it is commenting on the whole idea of, like, using, someone with dwarfism as a prop, you know what I mean, as something for a dream sequence. And also apparently dream sequences have to have fog in them.
Yeah, which is a whole thing too. They have this like beaten up old fog machine.
Yeah.
And they don't even know how to use it properly. Like, they're like, does the oil go in there or does gasoline go in there? Like, do we put both in there? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, and it's like they're only getting a little bit of fog out, and then he's complaining. He's like, "Wait, don't we have more? We need more fog in this. It's a dream sequence."
Yeah, it has to be this way,
It has to be more fog.
Which plays into the whole, you got to roll with things. Like, things don't always work out the right way, so you got to make it work.
Yeah, and then, like, and then what's playing out is that when Peter Dinklage, Tito, he makes like 2 passes around her and has to stop on a mark. And then that's where he's supposed to laugh, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And so, the focus pull will go up and he'll mark it on the floor, and that's where he's supposed to laugh. And then she's supposed, I think, take the apple from him. But it's not
They're
working.
not getting to that point. He's not feeling her. Nick's not feeling that she's convincing that she really wants the apple.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a really good scene, to be honest.
No, it looks ridiculous.
It does look kind of ridiculous. Like it's like the apple's not even like is not even like outside of her reach.
Yeah.
Like, she has to like short arm it, almost like a T-Rex arm it, just to like make it not look like she can actually grab the apple.
Yeah.
Like, they could have like framed that better, and maybe that's just me. I mean, that's not the purpose of the scene. I just noticed how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other stuff we've seen in the movie, all the fantasy stuff, like, looked like it could actually work, while this scene that they're filming from perhaps the actual real movie is the one that looks the most cheapest. If you notice, like, the background is like cardboard, and the door he walks through, like, it's like, I don't know, like gonna fall off the thing.
Well, that's
stuff.
the magic of movie making.
Yeah, it's like the magic of movies. I'm like, that post production better be interesting.
It's got to be interesting.
But
finally,
what happens?
Finally, he's kind of done with it. He brings up the whole idea of dwarves being used in dream scenes and how it's ridiculous, and tells them off, and just leaves and quits.
Look, Tito, it's not that big of a deal. It's a dream. Strange things happen in a dream. All I want you to do is laugh. Why is that such a problem for you?
Why does it have to be a dwarf?
What?
Why does my character have to be a dwarf?
It doesn't have to be a dwarf.
Then why is he? Is that the only way you can make this a dream? Put a dwarf in it?
No, Tito.
Have you ever had a dream with a dwarf in it? Do you know anyone who's had a dream with a dwarf in it? No! I don't even have dreams with dwarves in them. The only place I've seen dwarves in dreams is in stupid movies like this. Oh, make it weird. Put a dwarf in it. Everyone will go, whoa, whoa, whoa. It must be a fucking dream. There's a fucking dwarf in it. Well, I'm sick of it. You can take this dream sequence and shove it up your ass.
And
yeah, are you skipping over the thing where the fog machine like falls apart?
Yeah, you're right. That was the last thing that happened before he quit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that kind of what prompts Peter Dinklage to quit.
Yeah, that is what. Yeah, you're right.
Is the fog machine like overfogs it?
Yeah, he overdoes it. Now he's like getting all
fire.
happy with it once he's figured it out.
Yeah, he's like really cranking it. Like he's basically dialed it up to 11, like a dumbass. Yeah. And
now you can't see nothing.
You can't see anything. Yeah. And like they have to clear the set, and randomly, who happens to show up?
Oh yeah, his mom
is the woman from the first act who was in that scene, but she's his mom.
Yeah.
And apparently she, I guess, escaped from, her assisted living place, and she somehow ended up there. Well, what happened is that they were going. There's another scene they're going to shoot later on, but the director didn't have his notes for that scene. His notes were at his apartment, so they had to send someone to go get his notes, and apparently his mother was just waiting outside of his place for him. So the guy was like, "Hey, I just brought her back here. She said she was your mom."
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think that's where I thought that's the same driver from that first act. Yeah. That first dream sequence.
Yeah.
That's where he popped up again. Yeah. And he's just like, the guy you get to go like grab stuff and do stuff.
Yeah, finding out
he's a runner, basically.
Yeah, finding out that the mom from the scene in the first act, which was from Nick's point of view, shows you that this whole script is coming from a personal place for him. He used his own mom in his dream to play the mom in the movie.
Right.
And so she's obviously got some kind of maybe dementia or some kind of something like that.
Yeah, probably.
And so she's, he tells her, just sit back, back here, don't leave. And she, of course, ends up walking on set in one shot. And then they has to put her right behind the camera and it's like, don't leave here,
Yeah, and that happens a lot, Stephen. I don't know if you know that, but that happens to me every single time I do anything ever with this podcast or with YouTube, filming my YouTube stuff. People will start doing shit.
Of course, yeah. And
I tell them, I'm like, I'm doing stuff. This happens all the time. It's like that scene where we talked about in The King of Comedy, Rupert Pupkin, where he's in his basement. He's having his dream of being on that show. And his mom starts yelling at him in the basement. That happens to me quite often.
Oh, that's nice.
Quite often. And it happened to Steve Buscemi's character in this movie, basically.
Yeah.
So as Stephen was saying, Tito gets fed up and he quits, and he's kind of like an important part of the scene. And what happens is the mother, I don't know what happened. She just decides to do it.
Yeah, she just is like, look, I'll do this.
Yeah, it's like, it's not that hard.
It's not that hard. She's like, she just gets the apple, takes it from Catherine Keener, and goes and closes the door, and is like, I'm ready.
Yep. All right.
And the thing is right before that, when Tito quits, Nick has a moment where he's like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to quit. This movie's done. Like, I've tried everything. I've tried to roll with it, and I can't do this anymore. And so Wolf tells the focus puller to just start packing up the camera. So he pulls the camera off, and in that moment, that's when the mom does that. And then now he can do his handheld style that he was saying that would be the best. And they do the scene in one take, handheld, and it's perfect. It's the way they wanted it.
She hits the mark. She does a maniacal laugh. That's kind of frightening.
Yes.
And then they nailed it.
Yeah.
They got that one scene done, cut and print. Almost though. There's something that they've got to do right after
they get
that.
the shots, but then before they're about to cut to go to the next thing, the sound man's like, wait a second. I have to get my standard 30 seconds of room noise.
Yeah. And this 30 seconds is kind of an eternity for everyone.
Yeah.
Because, like, after all that, if this gets screwed up, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But while that 30 seconds is happening, it bounces around to each, like, different character. And they all have this kind of, I don't know, dream?
They all have, like visions of, like...
Visions.
Whether it has to do with the movie or it has to do with what they're going to do after work or what it puts you in their heads for this moment of finally getting something done positively. And, Nick's thinking, in his head, he's already thinking, this is the best movie ever. Like, I'm going to get an award for this shit. And Chad is giving him the award, which is hilarious. And then it goes to Nicole, it seems that she's thinking about quitting. Yeah. She's like looking to get a job at a burger joint, like just like
looks like a diner.
Yeah,
like a waitress or short order cook or something like that. And
Wolf is having a fantasy of Wanda coming back to her, being like, "I'm sorry," and he's like standing over, and she's like in this like white dress and like
she's in the wedding dress.
Yeah. And he's just having this fantasy where she's just like crawling back to him.
Yeah, the thing is that she's having a fantasy about sleeping with
Chad.
Chad.
Yeah. And him being like, "I love how powerful you are."
Yeah. And then that lighting guy from earlier,
I think he's a key grip.
And he's dreaming about eating a cheeseburger, which honestly I've had that dream many times.
I was gonna say I can relate to this one. And
so then and they cross cut it back to with like the stopwatch like ticking down like from the top all the way down to 30 seconds, like tick 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 tick. And that's like you said, that's pretty close to the end.
I mean,
the
they
movie.
basically get the room noise, and then they say they're good, and then everybody just basically jumps back into work mode and to get ready for the next thing, and then it cuts to black, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Then you hear, as the credits roll, you hear them working and moving on to get the next thing ready to go. In filmmaking, a lot of times you don't have time to celebrate the victories. You have to move on to the next thing.
All of that was done just to get one scene.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the whole movie. They didn't wrap principal photography. They didn't, do anything. They accomplished probably, a small percentage of what that whole movie's probably going to be.
But so much effort's put into just that one moment,
Yeah. All of that effort's into that one moment, and it's just like... They do celebrate a little bit, but as you said, they have to, calm down.
They have to calm down to get
move
back
on
to work.
The next one.
And so that's living in Oblivion. And honestly, this was I just recently watched this movie, and I picked it up from Shout Factory. They have a release for it on Blu-ray, and I'd heard about this movie from a podcast I listen to, which is critically acclaimed. William Bibbiani and Whitney Seibel, their podcast, they talked about it at some point. I don't remember how it came up, but then I checked it out. It's amazing. I love this movie. It's honestly become one of my favorite movies about making movies. After watching it a couple times, I really enjoy because a lot of times when you get movies about making movies, they're like lavish productions. They're these big movies. How this big musical got made. How this big whatever got made, and it's like that's cool, but these low budget, like kind of more closer to what I grew up through. the 90s, that movement connects more with me. And
well, yeah, it's part of that 90s independent cinema
kind of
genre,
resurgence,
movement, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, it's an underrated gem, I would say, because I didn't know about it until Steven brought it up to me. And yeah, I think it's great. I think it's well worth watching for those of you out there who've never heard of it, for those of you out there who are interested in movies about movie making, because that's kind of a subgenre in and of itself.
Yeah.
There have been many, many movies, so many ones that many of you have probably seen before. I mean, the list goes on and on if you want to Google it, but it's really kind of never ending, and they go back decades. And it's kind of always. I initially thought it was kind of weird to see movies about movie making, kind of like movies within movies, if you will.
Yeah.
It's almost like an Inception type thing, like a dream within a dream. But it kind of works. If anything, it's very meta, if you will. Especially if it's commenting on the process and commenting on, just the movie making world. Like if it's commenting on Hollywood and how, like The Player, something like that. That's something that's not even like that's criticizing movie making or criticizing the movie making industry through making a movie within a movie. I think is fascinating.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? It's ingenious. So I dug it a lot.
Cool. Well, I think we've made it to the end. Please let us know what you guys think of it. Leave it in the comments. If you've seen this and what you think of it, and let us know if this is the first time you see it and if you love it, or if you hate it. You might hate it.
I've got a movie.
Yeah, it's now we're going to talk about what the next episode is going to be, and so Andrew, I told Andrew I gave him the episode. I know he wasn't thinking about it probably much, but I need him to give me something so we can let the audience know what next week's going to be.
Okay. Have you ever? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a movie you've never seen.
Sure, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Have you ever seen Marty?
Yes. With Rooney?
Ernest Borgnine.
Or Borgnine. I don't know why I said Rooney.
Kind of really want to talk about that movie
Sure.
and why I think it's amazing. 1955, directed by Delbert Mann, starring the late Ernest Borgnine. And it's a movie I think is extremely contemporary in its themes, and it's not a long movie. It's similar to, it's 90 minutes, similar to Living in Oblivion. But I think it's an important movie.
Okay.
And I think it's a good movie. So I kind of want to talk about Marty next time.
Okay, well, next...
We're going from 1995 to 1955.
Yeah,
so
we're going to go back 50 years.
40 years.
Yeah. I can't do math.
I know. So I normally can't do it either, but I whipped that one out of nowhere.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Cinema Discovery Project. If you didn't hear at the beginning, this is going to be what we do from now on. We're going to be doing these what we used to call spotlights. It will just be the normal thing. So, thank you guys for listening. Where can we find you, Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as my YouTube channel, Capzilla Productions.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me on Instagram at Cinema Discovery Project. Also on Letterboxd, I always kind of post you can keep up with what I'm watching at Cinema Discov. I think it's just Cinema Discovery is where I'm at on Letterboxd. And that will be it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and hey, keep on watching the movies.
I know I will.